Hello everyone, welcome back to Royal News Network. My name is Brittany and today we are talking about Meghan Markle's trip to Texas in what can only really be described, I think, as a ill-gotten or ill-conceived publicity stunt that I think has kind of gone horribly awry for her. And I know a lot of people said, well, she's being compassionate, she wants to grieve with these families, she's a mother, yada, yada, yada. However, I really think when you look at this objectively, I think there are several kind of key warning signs that this is not done purely for altruistic motives. And I think the media caught on to that a bit and has kind of backed off from the story in a way, I think out of concerns, perhaps for her own reputation. Because irregardless of how well-intentioned this was, it just looked like a publicity stunt. Regardless of, whether you like Meghan or don't like Meghan, this just came off looking exceptionally bad for her. And I'm going to give you a couple of reasons why I think that is, and listen to the end and let me know what you think of my conclusions. So if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network before, my name is Brittany and we talk about kind of everything related to royals here. So that's news, gossip, fashion, jewelry, television shows, movies, and history. We do it all here. So if you want to subscribe, that will be great. And next week I will be in London for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee and I will be basically showcasing the whole thing. I have a whole video describing all the different things I'm going to do. And so if you are interested in following along on that journey, I will have a ton of content, even about, Harry and Meghan, seeing how the public reacts to them, the crowds. I'm super curious about that. So if you guys want to hit the subscribe button, that would be fantastic. And like I said, today we're talking about, something very serious and I think very kind of critical to understanding how royals function. And that is this tragedy in Uvalde, Texas, where a gunman killed 19 children and 2 school teachers in an elementary school, which is, horribly and utterly tragic. It is a terrible thing to have happened. And yet somehow Meghan Markle is there kind of remembering the kids. It's just very weird. So first warning signs. We also obviously saw some of the pictures come out yesterday. It was kind of a memorial, as I understand, kind of in the town square near the courthouse. And she showed up and there were obviously a crowd of photographers already there. Now, I don't know exactly what the makeup of this is because obviously there's a lot of media in the area to capture, news conferences, events, kind of those sort of things connected to it to kind of educate the broader public about what has happened. And Meghan showed up to lay flowers and she, I guess, chose one particular cross to lay them by, and we got several very, very clear pictures of her. So this wasn't like a member of the crowd who happened to see her there. It basically just seemed to be solely photographers at this location. And you can debate whether, hey, they were already there, and she just happened to show up. But my question is, if this was truly about just being charitable, being mournful, and investing in the community, did it really matter that Meghan put the flowers there? Or could her assistant have done it and her sat in the car and nobody would know? Because if it was supposed to be a private visit, as they are alleging, there's no reason why Meghan couldn't have just sat in the car and had her assistant doing it. Because what she does when she is there, when these pictures were released, all of a sudden the narrative went from these children who were killed in this horrific manner and the teachers and a husband of one of the teachers who died, many are saying of a broken heart, of a heart attack because of this tragedy. It all of a sudden became, why the heck is Meghan Markle in Texas? And even if she had the best intentions, what ended up happening is that she all of a sudden invested herself in this narrative of this tragedy. And it's one thing for somebody like Matthew McConaughey to have that happen to him because that is actually his hometown. So he's actually from that area. He's from Texas. So if his name gets mentioned in a story, that makes sense. And if I saw him there, I wouldn't actually be as surprised or be as frustrated because this is his hometown. He has invested time and, some of his background in there. So we know that, him going there makes sense. But so far as we've known it, he's actually stayed away. And I think that's important because what she does when she came there is she kind of created this circus about herself because it's it immediately became, is Netflix there? Is a photographer there for her? is, you know, she has her security there, and I'll go into the security guy here in a minute. But, you know, all of a sudden, all the media focus went from this town and this tragedy to Meghan Markle. And again, they said in a statement, in her personal capacity as a mother, in order to offer her condolences and support in person to a community experiencing unimaginable grief. Now, obviously, all of us can, sympathize with that statement. We all empathize with what's going on there. It's such a horrific tragedy. We all are mournful. But my question to Meghan is, well, what other capacity would you be there in? You are not a princess of the United States. You have no business being there. This is a time for politicians, leaders, the community, law enforcement. I mean, there is a whole situation going on behind the scenes that you have nothing to do with. And you represent nothing but your own business interests. And that's the problem, because Meghan no longer represents something greater than herself. When you are a royal, you represent your monarchy, your country. Meghan Markle represents nothing but Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and their brand Archewell, their production deals, Netflix, Spotify. That's what she represents now. She doesn't represent something greater. Because anytime the royals show up, they represent a deeper and a cultural significance. There's a deep connection to the people and the royals oftentimes. Meghan Markle, she represents nothing. So of course she's there in her personal capacity. There's no other reason for her to be there except for she decided that she needs to be there. It's just really, really quite bizarre. And what also happened in that kind of little interaction in that little courtyard there where she laid the flowers is that there was a massive bodyguard behind her. And as it's been reported, this bodyguard used to work for Michael Jackson. And I found this fascinating, and I want to go into kind of greater detail on this because I find it really interesting, is that Harry and Meghan keep hiring these uber elite people in Hollywood, like the creme de la creme. I mean, they must be paying these people enormous six-figure salaries to work for them. And it draws extra attention to them in a way. Yet they're not doing enough work really to make it worthwhile paying these people exorbitant amounts of money. But getting back to this bodyguard guy, it's like she is drawing attention to herself, having this massive guy there who is actually recognizable to the media. When Catherine actually did go and lay flowers for a woman who was killed in London, she did this kind of on her own, and there was a video that came out about it, but it was very much, there weren't a ton of photographers covering her. There was, because I think the confusing thing with Meghan is that it was only camera people there. And there didn't seem to be many citizens there. She didn't walk up with other citizens. It was just cameras. And so it's well, what are you doing there? But Catherine, it was a vigil for this woman who was killed in London. Catherine, who spent much of her young adulthood in London, oftentimes walking by herself at night or during the day. And she was harassed by photographers a lot because that was kind of during the heyday of the paparazzi. And so she was followed and harassed. And this woman was killed in London. She was killed by actually a police officer. And so it was a huge tragedy, huge outrage. And there was this vigil area where people from the public could gather to mourn and kind of recognize the danger that women face sometimes in, a city like London. And so she came there in a personal capacity, and there was a video that emerged, but it was not, you could tell it was a camera phone video. You could tell that, either you could give her, say maybe a staff member of hers took it. However, it looked enough like she was just in the crowd in general that you could have the illusion that she just did it completely personally. As I understand it, it was actually a journalist who kind of saw her there and recognized her. But when she's walking away especially, you couldn't recognize her. And the most important thing, the most interesting thing is that her bodyguard was there, and her bodyguard is a woman. And her and Catherine actually are similar in height. I think Catherine maybe is slightly taller than her. And if you saw them walking together, you would have no clue that that woman is Catherine's bodyguard. You would have no clue because it's not flashy. You see Hollywood people oftentimes, and sometimes, especially I feel like the Kardashians and stuff, they hire these very flashy bodyguards. And I'm sure they're good at what they do as well. But when you have a gigantic man in a suit standing behind you, and you're in a hat and a jeans, and you're supposedly going incognito, but the dude behind you is clearly screams security and bodyguard, that doesn't fly. he draws attention to you by his mere presence. If she had a female bodyguard who was very much low-key, dressed in a similar manner to her, much like Kate's bodyguard was, you wouldn't even question it. You would think maybe she's just a normal person. And so, again, you kind of take some of those things together in that instance, and it just kind of starts to really scream publicity stunt. And then you have the question, was Netflix there? And I think that's a huge thing that we won't know maybe until the documentary comes, or sorry, the reality television show comes out. I'm not calling it a documentary. It's a reality TV show, because apparently that's all they can do. And so there was a man back there who looked like he could have been a member of their kind of more skeletal, Netflix team, because he had a camera and it very much looked like the camera that they kind of used in New York earlier this year. And you could look at this guy and kind of consider, it's like, he kind of looks like one of the people who would be on their more slimmed down Netflix crew. And then you also had this, these photographers taking picture. And in one video, it looked like a couple of the people who were taking pictures of her initially at these memorials were actually following her back to the car and looked like they were part of the entourage. They weren't following like other people were. They seemed to be kind of following as perhaps even members of the entourage, getting behind them and getting in maybe a car behind them or something like that. Because again, they don't want to advertise that they're there for Netflix. But I mean, what other reason? Why would she be there? Because what is wrong with donating from a distance and sending your condolences, making some sort of public statement? I mean, I know they've done that before, but she didn't go to Buffalo when that incident happened a couple weeks ago. So why is she there now? You would think she would have something to say about what happened in Buffalo, because that was motivated by racism. You'd think, she's been all over that. So why wouldn't she go to Buffalo? Again, it just raises a lot of weird questions about why she was there. It was a very demonstrative thing. And she's like dressed casually, but also if you think about how celebrities dress sometimes I feel like when they wear the ball caps and stuff, they actually draw more attention to themselves, because not a ton of people wear ball caps, especially women. And so you just kind of look at it and going, well, you're kind of not drawing attention to yourself and yet also drawing attention to yourself by the way you're dressed. And, again, there's just, I'll show a couple, pictures of what these camera guys look like that we've seen so far. But the guy across the way, especially because, he is capturing her at the perfect angle. So he had to, it's not like she walked up behind and, set the thing down and he was just like, oh, let me run around. Because it looked like it was quite a bit to run around. So he had to maybe like sprint to get the right angle to get the shot of her, or he was already there and he was told to be there, because there's actually not a lot of people on the other side of that pond. And so, because most of the press is on one side. And then there's this one time where this woman, she's from the press and kind of brazenly, which is, I feel like weird, actually goes down and takes a picture of the bouquet of flowers. And they're white roses for peace, I guess, apparently. But it's like, it wasn't really worth it for her to go take a picture of that. None of the pictures has emerged. And of course, there's always the question as well, because Meghan, when Prince Philip died, what she did is she and Harry provided a wreath in the funeral service. And there were wreaths lined up and family members all did that. However, Meghan's was the only one. As soon as it was on camera, within seconds, there was a description of what the flowers were, where they came from, that Meghan Markle wrote a calligraphy note. Thankfully, we didn't get any information about the calligraphy note that she may or may not have left. But again, she has this habit of doing things in serious situations in mourning, drawing attention to herself. And again, it just raises too many red flags about this being publicity stunt. Now, you compare Meghan's actions in this situation to Crown Princess Mette Marit of Norway. So when it came to the kind of the remembrance service of that terrible massacre that happened on the island where a gunman shot over 70 children and adults, she was very, very deeply emotional at this event. But it made sense. Her stepbrother was actually one of the victims. He was a police officer and he was there on the island, and he was in kind of an unofficial capacity, but he was there to offer security, and he died during that massacre. And so her emotions and her being there at this remembrance service is relevant, whereas Meghan's is not. Now we get to the rest of the trip as well. So apparently she went to this blood bank to donate some food items. So we were told that these were snacks, well, basically chips, beverages, sandwiches, and desserts. And you looked at the picture, and honestly, none of them, they were like normal, everyday, not special like chips or anything like that. They're like something you would get if you went to Costco. Costco is a retail chain here in the States, if you don't know, that kind of does warehouse stuff, so you can get a big box of stuff. And I looked at the price, and the price for a variety of chips packaged, like kind of what they were displaying, is like $10. And so it looks like, you know, not to criticize her for trying to be charitable. That's a great thing to do, to go and be charitable, but it also looks like she didn't spend that much doing it. And, you know, apparently the women who did meet her there were very impressed. They talked to her as if they said it was like a conversation with a friend. But I don't think that would happen any differently. We've been told many times, Meghan is very charming. She's just not nice to the people who work for her. She's nice to everybody else, but if you are not somebody she needs to charm or she needs something from, she can be apparently fairly nasty to you. And so you just kind of look at that situation and go, okay. And what's interesting too is BuzzFeed, who seem to have gotten the scoop on this visit. It's also a left-wing outlet, and they had to amend their story because at first, I guess they said 2 bags of food, and they had to amend it to 2 large, quote unquote. So somebody made them put in large. So that was somebody probably from the Sussex team who said it needs to be in quotes. It was large crates of food. But again, if it's not that nice of food, like she didn't go and get a massive spread from Chipotle or Panera or, you know, another restaurant around town, maybe those weren't close, but maybe there was something nice that could have, you know, she could have had a very nice spread. I mean, she did something pretty generic, really. And she seems to expect this great praise from it. And there's been reports, and I don't know if this is true because I've seen this mostly kind of talking on Twitter and stuff and not really widely reported by the media, that she was offering to pay for funeral expenses and those sorts of things. And that's, I mean, that's great. You know, if she is doing that, you know, bravo to her. But again, she doesn't have to be there to do that. And according to the Daily Mail, she chartered a private jet for this. So she maybe gave $1,000 to $2,000 worth of food. I'm just estimating. I'm just guesstimating. I don't actually know. But yet spent $25,000 to $30,000 to do that. And we don't even have any information about whether or not she donated to other things. She spent a little bit of time at the blood drive, went and dropped off the flowers and left. All those things could have been done from her backyard. Not to denote the fact that she wants to be there in person, but she's kind of there too early. This is the other problem she's running into. She's there just like a day or two after this happens. And most of the time, if you're going to do something like that, you really should wait a week or two. Because right now, this is about the community. This is about the community coming together. They don't need this outside person just barreling through going, well, I need to help you because I'm a duchess. I need to be there because I'm a duchess. That's basically, I'm famous, so I get to go there. That's kind of her shtick. And it's just embarrassing and kind of terrible because it should be focused on the community. And what she does, regardless of her trying to make it private, she knew there were photographers there. How could she miss a camera crews there? Yet she went to that memorial anyways. And she supposedly, is donating this food, but it looks like it's fairly generic, cheap food. Not, slamming her for that if that's what she wants to get. And yet she probably spent 10 to 20 times more on her private jet to get there to begin with. Not to mention paying the security person. Like, the whole thing just reeks. Does not fly with people. And I think that's why a lot of the mainstream media actually kind of backed off of the story. I looked today and it had mostly disappeared. My parents have cable, I don't. They said, I know this is Fox News, so not everybody's a fan of Fox News, but my mom said that, they didn't really cover it on Fox News. And even my dad was like, kind of questioning, well, why was she there? And the thing is, nobody knows why she was there, because all of this could have been done from home. But the thing that makes this as a publicity stunt is that because all of this could be done from home, all this could be done in private, she wants to be private, yet she does it very publicly. And all it looks like is something where she can't do charity unless she can be seen doing it. And that's not charity. That's self-promotion. That's, self-congratulations, self-aggrandizement. oftentimes, yes, sometimes you physically go to a location to be charitable, but I've done things on my own that I try not to tell people about, because in part, I'm doing it for the man upstairs. I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it for the man upstairs. And I don't want to do something to get praise from others. So I most likely will not post about it on social media if I do something nice for somebody, a homeless person that I come across, because then it's like, am I seeking the approval of the public to do things rather than seeking the approval of, my God? And that's just how I choose to go about it. But Meghan always seems to, Harry and Meghan, every time they do something just a smidge charitable, they have to publicize it. And oftentimes what they do is pretty small, and they want this grand congratulation for it. So when she did the parental leave thing, this organization, she gave them like each $25 gift cards. But this company is like 25, 30 people, I think I looked. And so it's like she only spent, a couple $100, I think, on it, or several $100, maybe up to $1,000, maybe more, something like that, if she gave one to every single board member in addition to every single staff member. So it's like, you did all this, and like, what are you wanting for the little bit that you like? You're seeking all this praise for really a little bit. Now, obviously, not everybody can, give $10,000, $20,000, $30,000. However, if she's able to charter a $25,000 to $30,000 jet, why not spend that $25,000 to $30,000 and give it to somebody else rather than paying for the private jet? That is such a simple thing that she could have done. And that she didn't do that, but that she had to go there and be seen, because, it's important that she's there, because she's a professional counselor. Sorry, I'm getting sarcastic, but she thinks she's a professional counselor. Like, she's no longer a member of the British royal family like she is, but she's not a working member. She doesn't represent anything but her own business interests. So the only reason she would go is for her own business interests, really. That's what it comes down to. And obviously as well, a lot of people noticed that Meghan has not been to see her own father, who I believe is in California right now, who just suffered a stroke, maybe a heart attack as well. She won't go see him, but she'll travel 1,400 miles to Texas, a place she has no connection to grieve with other family members, and yet she may lose her father and not even go to his funeral. And what's frustrating about that aspect, as well as what she's mad about him for, is, obviously doing those paparazzi pictures and not being able to come to the wedding. However, Meghan Markle used to work with paparazzi to get pictures of herself to promote herself. So she's punishing her father for something she herself did. And, kind of the biggest reason why this is a publicity stunt is this is not Meghan's first time doing this. In 2020, she and Harry shut down a graveyard in California, walked over the gravestones of other men, soldiers who died, so that Harry could lay a wreath on, like, the two British guys were there for Remembrance Sunday. So this is not their first time, Harry and Meghan's first time, utilizing the dead to promote themselves. And that's kind of despicable, really, because there was no reason for Harry to do that. He did that because he couldn't personally have a wreath laid on his behalf at the cenotaph in London. However, none of the royal family members, I think, except for the Queen, actually lay a wreath on their personal behalf. It's on behalf of different branches of the military. And it's just like, and she brought a fashion photographer to take those pictures of her. Like, they were very artsy. Like, they're walking on graves. They're in a cemetery for soldiers. Like, have some decorum. Have some, like, self-awareness. And so you just see all this and you go, my gosh, honey. Like, this was, regardless of her best intentions, she could have had the most gracious, kind, pure heart in this situation. She should not have done this. And her PR company should have told her, do not do this. This is a mistake, because it could play so wrong. And it has. People are upset. People are mad. People are frustrated, angry, aggrieved, mournful, like just unbelievably frustrated at the gall of a woman who has a royal title from a different country and thinks that gives her the right to intrude on a town to promote herself. Again, if Meghan wants to be charitable, that is completely fine, but she should have done that privately through donations and making sure that, you know, perhaps the money gets somewhere. There's no reason for her to be there to do that, to be seen doing that. That it somehow makes it look better. I actually think makes it look entirely worse, because you know, it'd be great to hear from anybody in Texas. If you met her, anything like that, I'd love to hear from you. Just get your personal thoughts and opinions. It doesn't sound like she interacted with very many people and was there pretty briefly. But again, you know, getting a private jet to fly you there, it just wastes a ton of money. Again, for what? So guys, let me know what you think about this video. Let me know what you think of Meghan. I actually filmed this video yesterday. It was much more of a rant, so I wanted to come at it from a bit of a calmer perspective today. And I hopefully shared with you guys some things, reasons I think why, despite maybe what she thought was a great moment to be seen as, you know, somebody who really, you know, is mournful for this situation, why it really just looks like a publicity stunt, and why pretty much even the mainstream American media is kind of taking a step back and avoiding it, because I think it just looks so bad. So anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching. More Jubilee coverage coming so soon. I can't wait, but I saw this and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't not talk about it. So thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again really, really soon. Bye.